Hey everyone, so today our objectives are to record audio to a track, create a click track, distinguish between some things in the clip list, some types of files, whole files versus subset clips, and then learn how to rename and delete files out of the clip list as well. Alright, so one thing to be aware of is how much space you have on your hard drive for actual recording. So I'm going to go to Window and then Disk Usage and load that up, and you can see that I have a couple of drives. So I've got a couple of externals and then my hard drive, and my hard drive has 400 gigs available. So at my current session sample and bit depth, my sample rate and bit depth, I can record about 88,000 minutes. And that just changed a tiny bit because I'm currently recording something to the hard drive, right? This video. So that's plenty of time. I can also fit plenty of time in minutes of recorded audio onto any of these external drives as well. So I've got plenty of space, but you want to check and make sure that you've got enough space to record your audio before you start. You don't want to run out of disk space suddenly as you're recording. Okay, let's work with adding a click to our session. So you might think that you can just go track new and get a click track as one of the options in the dialog for new tracks, but that's not how it works. It's kind of a special setup. So instead we need to go in Pro Tools Track and then create click track. Then once we have that, we can turn it on and off in a couple of ways. So it will automatically sync to our session tempo and meter. And so if I hit play right now, I've got my click going. You can hear it's in groups of 3 because currently my tempo's in 6/8. And it's going at 100 beats per minute. If I want the click will automatically adjust. If I change my tempo to 120, it speeds up right away, right? So it's connected there. And what a click track really is an aux input track, which we'll learn about one day, and with a plugin already placed on it. So here's the plugin. So I went over to the mix window, and then on that click track is automatically placed this click to plugin. And there's some things you can do with that. So if I hit play, I'm going to do it away from my drums here and probably turn it down a little bit. So notice it's clicking in sets of 3 beats because of my meter in my session. And I can adjust. You can probably hear that the first click is a little louder, and then the click on 2 and 3 is softer. So we can adjust that here. So the accented first beat click is this slider. And I could turn down the other 2. So if I really just want really strong downbeats without the other 2 clicks being loud, I can adjust these sliders. And so the secondary clicks are the bottom one, click 2, and then click 1 is the accented downbeat. Now I don't love the default sound of the click in Pro Tools, so I usually mess around and switch it to something else. I really like Marimba 2. My friend Kai introduced me to this one, and I love this sound. It's much more organic to have this wooden marimba sound. So that's really nice. And then if I need a little louder on the downbeat, I can just move the slider. You'll notice that I have 2 choices, Marimba 2 accented and Marimba 2. So that's because they've deliberately made 2 sounds, one for an accented click 1 sound and one for click 2. But there's no rule that says you have to do the accented one on click 1 and the soft one on the other. You can totally customize it as you like, and there are a ton of options in this drop-down menu for sounds that you want on your click. So I've customized it a little bit. You can always save yourself a preset too if you find a setup you really like that you're going to use a lot. Okay, so when we're listening back to our click, we can turn it on and off in a couple of ways. So one is using the metronome button in the MIDI controls in your toolbar in the edit window. So I can just click this button and that will silence it. It's much better to do it this way than to solo or mute the actual click track, because if you have a lot of tracks it can get lost, and this is very easy and it's always there. Now if you're not seeing these controls, you can use the drop down menu right here and make sure it says MIDI controls. So I can turn it on and off that way, and I can also use the numeric keypad, the calculator looking keypad. That's 7 on there to turn the metronome on and off, to enable and disable. And then I can actually change the count off setting too, which is basically if I hit play right now and I have count off on, when I record, it will play me 2 measures of 3 beats right now before the recording even starts. And I'll show you that. So if I hit record, notice the playhead is not moving. There's my, and then it starts after 2 measures of clicks for me. So that's what count off does. It gives me a couple measures of beats before I actually start the recording, the moment of recording. So you have a chance to feel the tempo before you actually have to get going. You don't want to just randomly have it start recording and have to guess and to remember perfectly the tempo that you're supposed to be at. So, and you might have like a drum track, maybe you want to hear it. You want to hear some clicks before the drum track starts or before the drummer started playing, right? So I might want to start my recording right with the drums, but I don't want to have no idea of what the rhythm is back here because the drummer's not playing. So I might use count off for that. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm in. And I'm with the drummer. So we can customize how that works by double clicking the metronome icon or going to setup and then click count off. And that will open up a dialog box. And you'll see you have a couple of good options here. So one is, do I want to hear the click during play and record? That's set right now and that's the default. A lot of the time you don't need the click playing every time you play the music back. So you might choose only during record. I only want to hear the click go when I'm actually recording. And the rest of the time it will be off. Or I could choose to only do it during count off. So if the count off is on, I'd hear 6 clicks here, 2 measures of 3 beats, and then when the drums come in, I don't need the click anymore. So it goes away, right? And then you can also choose whether you want to hear a count off every time you play or whether you only do it during record, and then choose the length of your count off. So typically you only want this during record. You don't want to hit play, and every time you hit play, you have to hear 6 beats before you hear the spot you wanted to play back. And now it's going to play back. So I probably don't want count off doing that. So instead, only during record, and maybe I do only during record for the click too, or only during count off, and then I have my drums to help me stay on if I don't want it on then. And then if I record here, I should get count off is on. By the way, you can turn count off on and off by clicking it, but you can also do the numeric keypad 8. So if I record now, what I should get is a 2 measure, 2 sets of 3 beats count off, and then it will go, what's going to happen? It's going to keep going because I have the click going during record. And here we go. And you can hear the click in there, right? So if I turn down our MIDI drummer, it's still going, right? Okay, and now it's time to do some actual recording. So a couple things that we want to do when we record. First is to, of course, check and make sure you've got enough space on your disk to do your recording. Then you need to choose, I'm going to go over to the mix window, right? Remember that's Command equals to get there if you need to. And I'm going to record onto this guitar track. I have guitar plugged into my interface. And first thing that we want to do is make sure that the interface is sending the guitar track to the right track in Pro Tools. And that is the top of these input-output drop-down menus. So the top one is input, the bottom one is output. So I'm going to click on the input and make sure that my interface has the right one chosen for my guitar. So I believe my guitar is in channel 1 currently, and I can tell that by either hitting the input monitor or the record enable button, which will blink the record. And we're going to check it. And we have a guitar in there. Okay. I'm going to turn that off. So we know our input's actually working, and when we hit input monitor or record enable, when it's record enabled, you'll notice this slider turns red. That's telling you that it's displaying here the volume of the input, right? So it's monitoring how loud you're going in. So if I've got my guitar here, I click the record enable button, and then I make some sound, I will see my input volume. Now this slider has no effect whatsoever on how loud the guitar goes in. So if I'm peaking, if it's too hot going in, turning this down will help 0. It will not make any difference. This is just about what you hear coming out, right? So how do we change the volume going in? Well, we can adjust our interface, right? So I can change the actual physical interface, I can turn up the gain. So if I play a note and then I turn up the gain on the, I'll get louder. Try not to kill this. Right? So you'll notice that then, because I was turning it up on my actual interface, we were getting more and more input volume, right? So what you want to watch out for when you record in is that you can always, pretty much always, get quiet tracks to sound louder, but if they peak, you will have degraded the recording quality pretty much irreparably. There's nothing you can do to fix tracks that peak on the way in. And you'll see this little meter at the top. I'm going to turn this down so we don't hear it, but I'm going to make my things really hot now. Okay, so you can see that peak, that little red dot. It tells me, oh, we peaked. I probably have some extra distortion or maybe something worse recorded in, if you see that. So where we want to be is, I want my input, my amount of input, to be at about -6 dB, maybe even a little bit more. You're pretty safe as long as you're still in the yellow. Even the green is good. Right? Green is good in general. I wouldn't get into the orange at all. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit and see. You want your general volume to be somewhere in the yellow. Okay, so we want to make sure that our input volume is in the green or the yellow. Don't ever go past that with your input volume. And if you notice that like a ha or some kind of loud laugh sounds and things like that, that will definitely start to peak, and you never want to get too hot going in. The other way to change the volume is to just move how far away you are from your microphone, right? So you can change your distance from the microphone, and that will always also adjust the input volume. So we can change how far away we are from the microphone. We can change the gain on our interface. Does moving this slider make any difference? None. Okay. Okay, so now that we have a trustworthy input volume set, then it's time to record. So how do we do that? Well, we can record enable, so we can arm the track from either the mix or edit windows. It's always the same button, and that track is now armed. You can, of course, arm multiple tracks, but typically, unless you're recording a whole band, you just need the one, right? If you're at home doing this by yourself, you're pretty much going to do one track at a time. So you can record it, enable there, or in the mix window. Either way, it's the same thing. You'll notice that they're both red, even though I clicked it over on this side. They're both red back and forth between the two windows. And then to actually start the recording, you also have to record enable the session. So we have to not only arm the track, but we have to arm the whole session. Now they're both blinking. Now if I hit play, it will start my recording with my count off, actually. There's my count off of 6 beats, and then recording starts my drum. Right, and I didn't play anything, so we don't see anything here yet. But let me show you how to do that. And I'm actually going to go a little bit. It's okay there, I guess. Okay, so the nicer way to do it, in my opinion, is to skip all this session arming stuff. So I like to record enable my track, and then I use the shortcut, which is Command Space. Then you're going to get your count off in this case, and then the recording will start. So Command Spacebar or Control Spacebar on a Windows machine. So that's my favorite way to do it. Once a track is armed, I'll just use the shortcut. Watch out on a Mac, because Command Spacebar is also Spotlight, so you will have to switch the shortcut settings in your Mac if you want to use Command Spacebar in Pro Tools. Okay, so now I'm gonna try and record in, right? So I'm gonna hit Command Spacebar, I'm gonna hear 6 counts. And then I have a little bit of audio recorded now, and then we can go see what happens with our clip list. Okay, so now I have a little bit of audio recorded into my session, and what we want to look at now that we have some audio in there is to get our clip list open. And remember, there's a couple ways to get that. I can use the tiny icon at the bottom right to get the clip list out, or I can use my drop down, which is often a little bit easier to get to in the editor toolbar. So I can also click clip list there. I think that's an easier way to get to it. Just because it's easier to click on that circle than it is to find this tiny little icon. All right, and we'll notice that if I select with the grabber a clip, I get a highlighted clip over in the clip list. And you'll notice it's bold, and it has a certain kind of name. So it says Guitar 09, which means that's the 9th time that I've hit record on that track. And there's a little bit of auto naming convention that Pro Tools does. So every time you hit record, you get a new parent file in the recording, and then it's going to be named after the track name plus the number of the times you've hit record basically on that track. So it'll just keep adding a number afterwards. Also, if you're recording to a stereo track, it will also show stereo after the name, I believe. And then you'll have a little drop down that will let you see the left and right channels. So if you're seeing a little drop down in your clip list somewhere, that's probably because you have a stereo audio track. Cool. So these bold, lighter colored ones, these are called whole file clips, or entire files, right? The entire audio file basically these are the parent audio files. And then what you'll notice is Guitar 09. That's that most recent one. I can rename that if I need to. Typically, you don't want to rename it because it's kind of a nice organizational feature of Pro Tools to have it auto naming and numbering these for you. But we'll talk about renaming them just in case. But first, let's just talk about how we might. So, for instance, I wasn't really feeling the time right at the beginning. So I might want to edit this clip a little bit, right? When I edit the clip for the first time, what I get is called a subset clip that will build beneath Guitar 09. So anything that's based off the Guitar 09 audio file will be a subset of this Guitar 09 clip, the whole file clip, and that's called a subset clip. So let's say I edit this because I'm not happy with that intro bit. I'm gonna take this first hit right here, and I'm gonna copy and paste it over here, so it's a little bit more, maybe better in time or something, right? Good, and then I want to crossfade this a little bit and make sure that we're, not doing anything weird with the edges of the clips. I might even just fade this out for a sec. Just to avoid any pops, I'm just doing that quick and dirty right now. We'd probably want to do a crossfade in real life. So I've edited this clip. Now we can see that this clip is called 9-03. That is the third subset clip of the parent, which was 09. So Guitar 09 now has 3 subset clips that we can click on and see where they are. So as soon as you edit, you're creating subsets, really pointers to pieces of this parent audio file. So 901 is right there, 9, and then 02 was that chunk that I separated, and the 903 is the one when I cut and pasted that chunk over there. So subset clips will be kind of grayed out, they won't be bold, and you'll see them underneath their parent usually. Okay, so let's say that you did want to rename one of these clips. Maybe you edited a little piece of a larger clip and you're going to reuse that piece a whole lot. So maybe I'm going to take that chunk and put it other places. And I just want to have it named somewhere where it's really convenient for me to find. So 2 ways to do that. You can have the grabber selected and then double click, and you will get a dialog box where it gives you the option to rename it. So like favorite edit or whatever you're going to call it. Make it so you can find it, right? And then hit OK, and you will get your new title there. Now that will separate it from all the other subset clips that are related to it. So I don't tend to like to do this very much. You can also rename it in the clip list itself. So I can double click it in the clip list. I'll get that dialog box. And then I'm going to name it back to what it was before because that's what I like. It was _09-03. Cool. And now I've got it back, and now it's a little bit better organization in my opinion. Cool. So that's renaming subset clips or entire clips if you want to. Any of these guys can be renamed. MIDI files can also be renamed, but if you double click the clip, you will get the MIDI editor. So if you want to rename MIDI, you probably want to do it from over here in the clip list, right? Because you're going to have that extra different feature with MIDI audio that's going to actually cause it to open the MIDI editor like that. Okay, let's say that I've pretty much finished my session, and maybe there's a couple takes that I did that I don't care about or want. So maybe guitar 01 is not even being used in my session. So here, if I click on this, notice nothing highlights. These are all not being used in my current session. None of these matter. These were just like empty recordings that I was making to show what the click sounded like, right? So these are all a waste of time, but they still recorded and they're still sitting on the disc. So I may want to get rid of these. Now I can do a set of them if I know. So notice as I click on these guys, nothing new gets selected. These top 3 don't get used at all. So why keep them? So a couple things we can do. One is we can just select it here, and there's a drop-down menu in the clip list. And you can hit clear, which is also Shift-Command-B if you want. And then you will get a dialog. Do you want to remove the clip? Do you want to move it to the trash, or do you want to delete it? Removing the clip from the session just takes it out of the clip list, but it leaves the file in the folder, right? So we have that audio files folder that is right here, audio files, and there should be a Guitar 01 wave, right? If I delete it from the session, which I'm actually going to just hit remove just to show you. It now doesn't show up in the clip list anymore, but it's still here taking up space on my hard drive that I might need, right? Now, another way to do it is, I'm going to do it with Guitar 02, drop down menu. I'm going to hit clear again. And this time, I'm going to try one of the other options. So the other 2 options, you probably don't want to use delete much, but they both delete the file and take it out of your session. So remove just removes the link, the little pointer to it from your session file, but the file itself still exists. If I want to actually delete the file permanently, I can either move it to the trash, which is the move to trash button, or delete it immediately. So it's probably better just to move it to the trash because you can always empty the trash later. And it'll get deleted when it's convenient. Delete immediately kills it. So either way, you're going to remove the file, but it's probably safer just in case it's an accident or just in case you need it back. It'll at least be sitting in the trash. So I'm going to go move to trash, and you'll notice now that Guitar 02 is gone. It's been removed from my audio files folder. It is now sitting in the trash, ready to be taken out. Finally, I have a whole bunch of these that are totally useless, right? So there's a couple ways to select multiples too. So one of the ways that I can do that is hold down Command, and that will let me select separate clips here. So I'm going to get rid of 4, 5, and 7 at once. And then I'm going to go clear, and I'm going to choose again, move to trash in my dialog box. And now those are gone. Now if you do have a clip in your session that you've selected, or if it's the parent of something in your selection and you hit clear on it, you are going to get a warning. So if you try and delete something that's actually used or is in your undo queue, so anything that's actually used in your session, you're going to get this warning dialog box. This is used in a track. Are you sure you want to get rid of this? Or this is connected to a plugin, or this is in the undo queue, or in the clipboard, right? You've copied and pasted it. Are you sure you want to clear that? And then if you do yes, well, you'll have to live with the consequences. Also, when you're selecting these to remove them, so say I want to get rid of 6, 8, and 3, I can hold down Shift, and that will select all of them in one chunk, right? So Command to select multiple separate, non-contiguous clips, and then if I want to do a big chunk, I can hold down Shift and click. Okay, so you're on to your next exercise now, which is actually recording a little voiceover. So remember, keep it in the yellow or the green, right? You can always fix too quiet. You can't fix if it was too hot coming into Pro Tools. So good luck, have fun. I'm looking forward to hearing those, and see you next time.